Art is designed to teach you empathy. Every worthwhile artistic creation is trying to teach you something, when that lesson is one centered around pain, trauma, and loss. No matter how fictional it is, it can cut you deeply. Hi, I'm no film critic, just a movie lover, and this is the Positive Picture Show. Some people fight over Justice League or Avengers. I have a lot I could add to that discussion, but it never meant much to me. For me, it was always about the X-Men. I love the X-Men. I adored the 90s cartoon and even watched X-Men Evolution and Wolverine and the X-Men. As a child of the 90s, I spent most of my childhood either watching the original movies, X2 on repeat, even though my mom hated how sexy Mystique was, or pretending to be an X-Man with my brothers. Me and my 3 little brothers spent literal days worth of time jumping on our trampoline, running around the yard, and traipsing through the bushes, pretending to be our off-brand X-Men characters. It was the time of my life. As a short, hairy, often angry, and ever in need of healing man, I was obsessed with Wolverine. Any and all set of 3 long, skinny objects found their way between my fingers like claws. He's the character I so dearly and, unfortunately, identified with. I had posters and action figures and comics and t-shirts and novelty 7-Eleven Slurpee cups. I wanted to be Wolverine. They say people of my generation grew up with the Harry Potter characters, that as each year passed and they got older, so did we. I was slightly too young for this to be true, but I know who I really did grow up with. Wolverine. From the instant I can remember, I was following his story. From Canadian cage fighter to mysterious experiment to reluctant mentor. From his origins to his best line ever.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier. Go fuck yourself.
To his weeb phase, to his time travel days. And just like all things that grow, I had the experience of watching him die. Here's just a random list of things I love. Unforgiven, old western vibes, Johnny Cash, brutal violence, existential reflections on life, Hugh Song and Danceman, and the archetypal pairing of a grizzled old man with a spry surrogate daughter. So naturally, when the Logan trailer came out, my friend called me and said, "It's like they made this movie for you." She was right, they did. The gods of fiction saw my sacrifice of hours of time and hundreds of dollars and granted me this blessing. I love this movie. I love it so deeply and personally that it's hard to really explain. But I'm going to try my best to verbalize why I absolutely love Logan. Immediately, you can feel a dramatic tonal shift from the X-Men of days past. This world isn't full of chrome hallways and beautiful mansions. There is dust on the shoes, gravel on the ground, wrinkles around the eyes, and danger around the corner. The cold open is something else. In just a few minutes, we learn how violent this movie's going to get. Man, we haven't even seen what this movie has in store yet, but it's already so grotesquely beautiful. This isn't the Logan from my childhood, but he's still very familiar. Through Jackman's brilliant nuance, you can feel his centuries of turmoil and sadness. He finally gets to cuss, gets to tear off arms and be the savage he was meant to be. But it never feels cheap and it never feels fun. Wolverine limps, he squints, he aches and he bleeds. We all know Jackman can act. Honestly, it's almost a cliche to praise the man at this point, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Despite playing this character for nearly 2 decades, he brings a new level of depth and sorrow to Wolverine. Not for a second do you see Broadway darling Hugh Jackman on screen. You just see world-weary and worn-out James Howlett. But he's so feral, so viciously animalistic. I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. Jackman somehow taps into a feeling I've had a lot in my life. I've been sick for as long as I can remember. I've always had trouble sleeping, to the point where I've gone days without it. I know how it feels to labor through everything, to be so worn out and beaten down that you stagger and stumble. Logan personifies this feeling. He keeps pushing forward, keeps fighting on, but you can see it in every frame just how sick he is. He holds himself so heavily. Every step, grunt, and slash is taking a toll on the man, and you never doubt it's reality. He's also pulling double duty in this movie. Jackman has the unenviable opportunity to not only play an aged gunslinger at the end of his rope, but also that same man in his ultimate prime. All pathos stripped away, all savagery raised to the surface. It's incredible. Boyd Holbrook is so good in the small scenes he has. He feels akin to Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday. It's hard not to like him, honestly. I just wish he had more screen time to chomp on.
I'm a fan, by the way.
Stephen Merchant is fantastic. His Caliban is such a welcome figure of levity in this dour movie.
If you are planning to blow your brains out, could you wait till you're out on the high seas and just mop these floors?
I don't need this shit.
He never overshadows the leads, but also never wastes his screen time.
That was my favorite mug.
Oh man, Patrick Stewart. How does this man always deliver golden material in every movie?
I always know who you are. It's just sometimes I don't recognize you.
He is both the fully capable mentor and the entirely dangerous liability in just one movie. You feel so much anguish for him, so much raw sympathy, but you also get a palpable warmth from his performance. He's still the professor we all know. Under years of hardship and layers of mental illness, he is that man that we all admired. The hopeful, kind, generous man. Stewart delivers a performance so powerful that I honestly couldn't wrap my head around the fact that he didn't really die.
What a disappointment you are.
Daphne Keane is remarkable, honestly. Child actors can break just about any movie they are in. It's incredibly easy for a bad performance to go unstopped. But Daphne, through great directing, ingenious lack of dialogue, and her own great magnetism, delivers one of the best child performances in blockbuster history. She says so much with her eyes, so much grief, affection, and not to mention Wolverine's patented rage. The shot of her seeing a city for the first time and all the lights whizzing past is so endearingly soft, but then you get her edge.
No. No. Move! Go!
The production design of this film is delightfully derelict. Like The Last of Us, that's its clear inspiration. There is beauty in decay. This film really grabs hold of that idea. The overturned tank that Charles lives in is a great example of this. Not only does it harken back to Cerebro, it reminds me of stars. A picturesque canopy of stars comforting Charles in his darkness. The film's aesthetic progresses from sun-blasted Mexico to rural Southwest to farms of the Midwest until you reach the green reaches of Canada. It's subtle, the color shifts, but effective, and tells the character progression of Logan moving towards fatherhood and hope. James Mangold has quietly become one of my favorite directors. He consistently has this grasp on the dirty, desperate, down-and-out world of the West. Not all directors can capture that. You have to really know it. And this is a Western through and through. I've always felt that Westerns aren't just a setting, but they always follow the same macro story. A story of a man out of time who watches the world go on without him, but still clings onto what made him valuable in the past. And that thing, almost always, is a penchant for violence. It is critical that this movie not glorify violence, but also not condemn it. This is an incredibly hard balance to strike. Action in movies, when it's done just for the sake of it, can be very engaging and fun, but ultimately can be detrimental. When you're wired to think of violence as fun, the real world effects don't register to you. You become not only desensitized to it, but even in favor of it. I know I'm a little hypocritical. I love all sorts of action movies and can't get enough of well choreographed, visually stunning, balletic fight scenes. But without a sense of cost or weight, action scenes can be very shallow and hollow. That is not the case in this movie. Not at all. Nothing feels easy. Nothing feels that fun. Even if it's energizing, you still feel this great uneasiness and horror at all that is transpiring. The initial major fight scene at the tanker has some of the most violent images I've seen. But the action never goes the cliche route. I've never seen in a movie someone yell, "Hold on," as they charge towards a barrier and not have them smash through it. But this movie not only has them crash into it, but turns the dragging fence into a dangerous liability throughout the rest of the scene. All throughout the movie, the action scenes escalate in ways I didn't think possible. The way you're forced to watch Logan slowly, without mercy or hesitation, murder the guys in the hotel is crazy. You can't look away. You have to carry the weight of their deaths just like Logan. Watch as the claws tear through them in new and horrific ways. This movie pulls no punches. It's quite a traumatic thing to see a little girl slice her arm open for fun. It's horrifyingly effective to watch the clips of Transigen, seeing all the blood and the needles. You instantly care for Laura and the other children. You desperately want Logan to unseal his heart and save them. And you start to see it. Start to see this berserker start to let Laura in. He has been through so much, has had decades and decades of haunting memories stacked on him, but he still has place for loving this little daughter of his. Not much at first, but you can see it naturally creep in, and it's wonderful. Even through his utter gruffness and unpleasantness, you can see Logan, just as always, looking out for others. X-Men can't help it, even if the others might be better off without them in the long run.
You need a hand?
This leads to perhaps the most gut-wrenching and terrifying sequence in any superhero movie. The dinner scene at the homestead is unfairly warm. The whole scene is bathed in gentle light with serene crickets in the background. The Munsons are welcoming, kind, and endearing. Everything about this sequence is kind and slow, building a bedrock of love for this family and breaking up the propulsive energy of this movie. There's hope. There's connection. Logan gets to be part of a family, even a hero. You even see him smile, which is absurd.
You know, Logan, this is what life looks like. A home, people who love each other, safe place. You should take a moment and feel it. This was, without a doubt, the most perfect night I've had in a very long time.
Just to take a terrible turn. Like any good horror movie, you build up the highs higher so you can get even lower lows. In true slasher fashion, the monster looms, unspeaking and non-reactive, just come to spread death. It slashes through the family, tearing open this beautiful home and stomping its train of death across the property. The music, the lighting, everything is exactly on point.
Can't nurture rage.
Then things start to turn grisly. This isn't a murder, this is a massacre. Every slash hits so hard. As the two Wolverines engage, things escalate into a level of brutality that I've never seen before. Blood, meat, rage, and horror begin to fly in every direction. You feel it all. There's something about the armpit stab that really hurts me to see. What a terror. What a monstrous scene. This isn't fun. This is true violence. There's no upside to bringing this kind of torment into the world. For an excessively violent film, it promotes non-violence like none other. There is an elegance to the tragedy of the burial scene. The only thing Logan was living for was Charles, and now he's gone, and now he needs to find a new reason to keep going. I've been very fortunate and haven't experienced that much loss in my life, but I can feel the hefty weight of this scene like none else. And Jackman channels the most Oscar-worthy performance imaginable in just 3 words.
It's got water.
You feel so much for him. The overwhelming sorrow that turns into utter rage. It's just spot on. Speaking of spot on, perhaps my favorite scene in the whole movie is when Laura finally talks. Their chemistry is perfect. Laura matching Logan's anger in every second. I love how forceful she is. Logan is at the end of his rope. He is broken in every way possible, but she won't take no for an answer. Oh man, I love it.
Fucking hit me! Don't hit me!
The moments on the road are beautiful. I love the shots of Logan sleeping on Laura's lap. We know we're building to something, but still not quite sure what. How do you cap off an 18-year, career-defining, pop culture-inspiring flagship performance in one finale? Do you go bigger than ever? Have Logan fight 2 Silver Samurai and multiple Statues of Liberty with both versions of Sabretooth? Or do you go smaller, deeper, more intimate? I'm forever grateful that Mangold in his wisdom decided on the latter. He eliminated all superficiality, all fan demands and franchise cliches to give us the dream third act of a Wolverine picture. He started with Logan's vulnerability, gave us his utter strength, and punctuated the film with his ultimate sacrifice. By giving us the intimate scenes of Laura and Logan at the outpost, we get to feel the weight of his legacy.
You have nightmares.
See, people hurt me.
Any different?
¿Por qué?
I hurt people.
We get the great inclusion of his mutton chops, and also perhaps the most heartbreaking line Wolverine ever delivers.
And it is better this way. Because I suck at this. Bad shit happens to people I care about.
Jackman breathes the character to life with so much reality, it's crazy to think he's all fictitious. But then we finally get the Barbary. Oh man, what every Wolverine fan has ever wanted. This action doesn't come with the weight and existentialism of the rest. It's just barbaric glory. Man, he finally gets to unleash the beast. I'd be lying if I didn't have a dumb smile across my face the whole time. It's so quintessentially Wolverine. Best take your daughter to work day ever. The movie gives us what we want, but at a cost. Everything has a cost, and the cost of being the Wolverine at full throttle is the cost of Logan's life. Man, that hits close to home. I think we all knew that this movie could end only one way, but I didn't want it to be true. What a beautiful way for Jackman's legacy to end. This scene, the music, Keen's performance, the simple lines just ring so genuine and heartbreaking. I remember crying very real tears watching this moment.
Oh, so this is what it feels like.
A man has to be what he is, Joey.
Can't break the mold.
There's no living with the killing.
There's no going back from one.
Right or wrong, it's a brand. A brand that sticks.
Now you run on home to your mother and tell her everything's all right.
There are no more guns in the valley.
So what was this movie all about? Why does it matter so much? What was it trying to say? Amid all the hacking, slashing, roaring, and killing, why has this movie been hailed as one of the all-time great superhero movies? Well, metatextually, this movie marks the clear end to an era. Jackman's Wolverine has been the patron saint of an entire generation of superhero movies. He paved the way for some of the best and worst of the genre. As I said before, he was such a hallmark of my childhood that to watch him die truly ended that phase of my life. I got to sit there in the theater as the credits rolled and see my childhood wither away. Metatextuality is all well and good, but doesn't matter much when compared to the actual thematic resonance of Logan.
Don't be what they made you.
Yes, a violent past will define your future to some degree, but you don't have to be who you were yesterday. Violence takes its toll on those who participate in it. You can't be a costumed hero whose currency is warfare without it taking chunks of who you are. Most other superhero movies ignore the weight of their hero's actions, but this one focuses solely on it. Logan is a tragedy. The titular hero doesn't get to escape his past, but through his final sacrifice, he gets to give the next generation the opportunity to define their own future. He gives up everything so they can have something to call their own. Beautiful, haunting, gory, tragic, heartbreaking, and honest. This is the perfection of Logan. Goodbye, my friend.